Unit 19 is machining symbols, bosses, and pads. First of all, we have what we call castings. When you go in and you look at, for instance, like if you go buy a lawnmower and you look at the rear end of your lawnmower, that rear end has not been machined out of a solid block of steel. It's been cast. For instance, there's a place in Bowling Green I know of that's called Trace Die Cast. They actually take and run die castings of lawnmower rear ends, stuff like that. Okay? Now, when you cast something, you die cast it, you shoot molten metal. You actually shoot that metal into a die, and then it produces a part. Now, if you need to take and press a bearing into that rear end or whatever, there has to be machined surfaces on it. That's where machining symbols come into play for our different drawings. For instance, if you had a casting of a lawnmower rear end, you're going to come back and you're going to find that there are prints that go with that casting that have certain symbols on it. You can read through this. I'm just going to come down to these parts here and talk about different machining symbols. For instance, if you see a check mark out there on a surface, excuse me, it says used to indicate that surface may be produced by any method. So you could do whatever you want to do to produce that surface. Now if you got a check mark with a line going straight across, that means that surface has to be finished by some sort of machining operation, and that you leave extra material for that machining if you're the person casting the part or whatever. Alright, if you see that same symbol that says that you need to come back and machine on that part, this tells you how much material needs to be removed by machining. For instance, this is telling me 30 thousandths needs to come off of that surface. If you see the check mark with a circle, that means material removal is not allowed. If it's a cast surface and they want it to stay that way, they'll put a check with a circle. It says it cannot be machined on. You also have these type of symbols that tell you can only mill this surface, you can only grind the surface, or you can lap the surface. Now lapping is a really precision surface that's been lapped in with a lapping compound, and it's ultra flat, for instance. So those are different machine symbols. Now you could have one that comes down through here and it could say turn, or it could say file. Whatever process on that, that's how you need to produce that surface. Now, we're going to get into bosses and pads. Bosses and pads both serve the same function. They both present a raised surface for something to sit on, or a surface on feet for it to support itself and give you a flat surface. The difference between the two: a boss is a raised surface that can be a round surface. This one here would not be a boss. Difference would show you here. I could come down. Here's a boss. Okay, you got a raised surface that's round. It's called a boss. You got a raised surface here that's not round. We call it a pad. So the difference between a boss and a boss is round. A pad is whatever shape it needs to be. They are both raised surfaces. You can see here we got a finish mark on there. That means that if you look back up, that one there, what did it mean? We look back up here, it means it needs to be finished by machining. So here's what you've got. You've got a part that's been cast, and that cast part is going to have cast surfaces on everything. If you want that to be flat and it's going to have something set on it, you would want to come in and machine it. You might mill it or whatever, but that's why it's got a machining symbol on it. Alright, for next time you're going to actually do your print. This is actually the print, and I want to tell you this right here, there will be a question concerning this circle right here and the circle going down through the part. It's going to ask you how far this cuts into that part. Now you might say, well, why would I ever need to know that? Well, if you were going to have a shaft that was passing through this part and you was going to put a bolt in it, you may need to know how deep to cut the shaft. So you would have to figure out how much material this circle is going to intersect that one. I'm going to give you a little hint. You can find the center of this circle here and the center of this circle, and you know the sizes of the two holes. Work with those dimensions and try to figure out how much material is left over. Alright, I will do a video that shows you how that works out. After you get done with it, we'll have that video or whatever, and it may be a video where I may just put an explanation into your drawing, but I'll have some sort of way to explain to you how to work that problem. But you've got to try to get it right first. Alright, so that's pretty well going to take care of this unit. Any questions, send me an email.